Hi everyone, so in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to crochet this little girl's shell stitch dress. So this dress can be made in 5 different sizes, in size 6 to 12 months, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 7 years, or 7 to 9 years. And in this tutorial we are going to go over the instructions for how to make size 6 to 12 months. But if you'd like to learn how to make any of the different sizes, then they are all included on the written pattern, and I will leave a link to where you can find the written pattern in the description box below this video. So for this dress you will need a 5mm crochet hook and DK weight yarn. So thank you very much for watching, and please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos. So we are going to start off by making the back, and to begin the back you want to make a slip knot. So to do a slip knot, take your yarn and take your finger and wrap the yarn around your finger once and then twice. Then take the first loop and pull it over the second loop, and then take the second loop and pull it all the way over your finger. You then want to take your crochet hook, go in through this loop and pull tight, and there we have a slip knot. And now once you have your slip knot, we can now make our foundation chain, and for this size we are going to chain 62. So you want to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 62. So there I have finished making my foundation chain, and now we can move on to round 1. So to begin round 1, we are going to work 1 single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So here is the first chain from the hook, and here is the second chain, and we're going to go down into this chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and go through both loops on your hook. So there we have 1 single crochet into that chain, and now we're going to skip the next 2 chains. So you want to skip 1 and 2, and then we're going to go into the next chain here and work a shell. And throughout our dress we are going to work lots of shells, and whenever we do a shell we're going to do the same thing. We're going to work double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all into the same stitch or the same chain. So you want to yarn over and go down into this chain, and we're going to work 1 double crochet, and now chain 1, and then go back down into the same chain. So yarn over and go back down into the same chain here and work a second double crochet, and then chain 1, and then work a third double crochet into that same chain. And there we have made our first shell. So we have 3 double crochets with chains in between them. And now you want to skip the next 2 chains. So we're going to skip 1 and 2, and then into the next chain here work 1 single crochet, like that. And now we're going to skip 2 more chains. So skip 1 and 2, and then we're going to do a shell into the next chain. So yarn over, go into this stitch and work double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in to that stitch or that chain. And now we're going to skip 2 more chains. So skip 1 and 2, and then work 1 single crochet into the next one or the next chain. And we're going to keep repeating this all the way along for round 1. So we're going to keep repeating, skip 2 chains, work a shell into the next chain, skip 2 chains, and then work a single crochet into the next chain all the way along. So we're going to do skip 2, shell, skip 2, single crochet, skip 2, shell, skip 2, single crochet, all the way along our chain for round 1. So I have finished working that all the way along for round 1, and you should have found that you worked 1 single crochet into the very last chain at the end. And now we can move on to round 2. So to begin this round, you want to chain 1 and turn, and this chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So we are going to start off by working double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all into this first stitch here. So as our chain 1 did not count as a stitch, we're going to go into this first one here, and we're going to work double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all into that stitch. And now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. So we're going to skip 1 and 2, and then into the next stitch here we are going to work 1 single crochet, and you should find that this next stitch is in the middle of the shell from last round, so you should find that it's that center double crochet, and we're going to go into this stitch here and work 1 single crochet. So work 1 single crochet into that stitch, and now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. So skip 1 and 2, and then into the next stitch here we are going to work a shell, and our shells are going to be exactly the same as last round. We're doing 3 double crochets with chain 1s in between them into the same stitch. So you want to yarn over and go into this stitch here, and you should find that this is a single crochet from last round, and work a shell. Like that. And now you want to skip the next 2 stitches. So we're going to skip 1 and 2, and then into the next stitch here we're going to work a single crochet. So you should find that this is the middle of a shell from last round, and we're going to work 1 single crochet, and we're just going to keep repeating this all the way along for round 2. You want to keep repeating, skip 2 stitches, work a shell into the next stitch, skip 2 stitches, and then work a single crochet into the next stitch all the way along until you have just 3 stitches left at the end. So you want to keep repeating, skip 2 stitches, work a shell into the next stitch, and then skip 2 more stitches and work a single crochet into the next one all the way along until you have just 3 stitches left. Just coming to the end of round 2, so I have worked my last repeat. So I finished off by working a single crochet into this stitch here, which was the middle of this last shell at the end, and I have 3 stitches left, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. So we're going to skip 1 and 2, and then into the very last stitch at the end we are going to work double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So the same thing as we did into the first stitch at the very start of the round. So there we have finished round 2, and now we can move on to round 3. So you want to chain 1 and turn to begin this round, and that does not count as a stitch. And we are going to start off by working 1 single crochet into the first stitch. So go down into this first one here and work 1 single crochet, and now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. So skip 1 and 2, and then into the next stitch, and you should find that this is a single crochet from last round. We are going to work a shell, and our shells are exactly the same in this round as in the previous 2 rounds. We're doing double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all into the same stitch. And now we're going to skip 2 more stitches, so skip 1 and 2 and then do a single crochet into the next stitch. And we're going to keep repeating that all the way along. So we're going to keep repeating, skip 2 stitches, shell, skip 2 stitches, single crochet, all the way along for round 3. So we're going to skip 1 and 2 and then do a shell into the next stitch. And now skip 2 more stitches and work 1 single crochet into the next, and just keep repeating that all the way along for this round. Skip 2 shell, skip 2 single crochet. Finished working that all the way along for round 3, and you should find that you finished off by working 1 single crochet into the last stitch at the end. And now once you have done that round, we are now going to repeat rounds 2 and 3 once. So for this size we are going to repeat them once. So you want to repeat round 2 and then you want to repeat round 3. And you can go back in the tutorial and rewatch those rounds as many times as you need to, or if you have the written pattern, the instructions are all written down nice and clearly on there. So you want to go ahead and repeat round 2 and then round 3. So I have finished working those repeats, so we now have rounds 1, 2, 3, and then we have a repeat of round 2 and a repeat of round 3. And at the end of that repeat of round 3, you now want to fasten off, so you want to cut your yarn and you want to leave a nice long tail end, as you can use this to sew up the side of your dress at the end. And now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our work over. So we have fastened off, leaving a nice long end, and now you want to turn your work over and we are going to count in 10 stitches. So we're going to count in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we are going to attach our yarn into this stitch. So insert your hook into that 10th stitch and then take your yarn, place it over the end of your hook, pull it through and then chain 1 to secure it. And there we have attached our yarn into that 10th stitch. So you should have 9 stitches left empty over here, and we have attached our yarn into the 10th one. And now what we're going to do to begin round 4, so we did rounds 1, 2, 3, we repeated round 2 and 3, and now we're on to round 4, is we're going to start off by working 1 single crochet down into that stitch that you just attached your yarn into. So do 1 single crochet, and you should find that that is in the middle of a shell from last round. And now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, so skip 1 and 2 and then work a shell into the next stitch, and you should find that this is a single crochet from last round. And now skip the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and work a single crochet into the next stitch. And now skip 2 more stitches and work a shell into the next one, and you should find that you always work the shells into the single crochets from last round. Like that. And now we're going to skip 2 more stitches and work a single crochet into the next one. And you want to keep repeating this all the way along for round 4 until you have 9 stitches left at the end. So you want to keep repeating, skip 2 stitches, work a shell into the next one, and then skip 2 more stitches and work a single crochet into the next stitch until you have 9 stitches left at the end. So we're going to keep repeating, skip 2 stitches, work a shell into the next one, skip 2 more stitches and work a single crochet into the next stitch until you have 9 stitches left. So you should find that you work your last single crochet into the middle of this shell here, and then you will have 9 stitches left empty on this side as well. So keep repeating that for round 4. So there I have finished working that all the way along for round 4. So I finished off by working a single crochet here. So I worked a single crochet into the middle of this shell here, and we have 9 stitches left at the end. So like I said, stop when you have 9 stitches left. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we have 9 stitches left empty at the start of the round here and at the end. And this is going to create our underarm section of the dress. And now for the next part of this dress, you simply want to repeat rounds 2 and 3. So the same rounds that we did down here, rounds 2 and 3. And you want to repeat those rounds until you reach the neckline, or where you want the neckline to be. So if you have a look at my finished dress here, we are doing the back section. So this is the back. So we have rounds 1, 2 and 3, and then we have our repeats of round 2 and 3. And then here is round 4, the round that we just did. And all of this section here up until the straps, so right up to the neckline, are just repeats of rounds 2 and 3. And you can do as many repeats as you like, but you must make sure that you finish on a round 2. So for this size, so for the size that we are doing, which is size 6 to 12 months, I would recommend that you do 4 repeats of rounds 2 and 3, and then just 1 extra repeat of round 2 at the end. So you will have 9 rounds, so 4 repeats of round 2 and 3, and then 1 extra repeat of round 2. So you'd have 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. So you can do as many repeats as you like, but that is the number that I would recommend doing. And if you have the written pattern, I have written on there all of the different numbers of repeats that I would recommend doing for each different size. So we finished round 4, so we're going to move on to our first repeat of round 2. And you can go back in the tutorial and re-watch these rounds as many times as you need to, or if you have the written pattern, they're all written down nice and clearly on there. So I'm starting off by repeating round 2, and each round is going to be smaller as we have our 9 stitches left empty on either side. So we're just working across this middle section here that we made in round 4. So go ahead and repeat rounds 2 and 3, finishing on a repeat of round 2 until you reach the neckline, or where you want the neckline to be for the back. Working all of those repeats for the back. So here we have round 4, and then we have repeats of round 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, and then finishing off on a repeat of round 2. So you must make sure that you finish off on round 2, like I said. So this is the length that I want mine to be, but like I said, you can do as many repeats as you like. And then once you have done that, we can now move on to the straps. So to begin the first strap, so strap 1, we're going to chain 1 and turn. So do not fasten off, chain 1 and turn. And we're going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch. And then we're going to skip 2 stitches and then work a shell into the next stitch. And then skip 2 stitches and work a single crochet into the next stitch. And for this size, that is how wide I want my straps to be. But if you did want wider straps, so for the larger sizes, I did make the straps a little bit wider, you just want to repeat, skip 2 stitches, shell, skip 2 stitches, single crochet. So for the bigger sizes, I repeated that once or twice. But for this size, for size 6 to 12 months, I haven't worked any repeats. So for round 1 of the strap, we just have single crochet, skip 2 stitches, shell, skip 2 stitches, single crochet. So like that. And then for round 2, for this size, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to do double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into this first stitch. And then we're going to do a skip 2 stitches and then do a single crochet into the next stitch. And then we're going to skip 2 more stitches and then do double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the last stitch at the end. And there we have round 2. So there we have round 2. So we did double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, single crochet, and then double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the last stitch at the end. And now for the rest of the strap, you just want to repeat those 2 rounds there. So you just want to repeat those 2 rounds until you have the length that you want. And I would recommend doing just 1 repeat of those 2 rounds for this size. But if you wanted longer straps, so you would have a lower neckline, if you did that, then you could do 2 repeats if you like, but I would recommend just doing the 1, so repeating each of those 2 rounds 1 time. So like that. So there I have finished the strap. So I have finished the first strap, and you want to go ahead and fasten off, leaving a nice long tail, as you can use this tail or this tail end to sew up the top of the straps later. And now we can move on to strap 2. So we are now on to our second strap, and you want to start off by turning your work over so that you have the wrong side of this last repeat of round 2 showing. And we are going to count in 7 stitches from the far left hand side. So we're going to count in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we are going to attach our yarn into this stitch, and you should find that you're attaching it into the middle of a shell from that last repeat, like that. And now our straps here is just exactly the same as the other strap. So for round 1, we're going to do single crochet, skip 2 stitches, shell, skip 2 stitches, single crochet, so it's exactly the same. And now we're going to chain 1 and turn and do round 2 in the same way. So that's double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 2 stitches, single crochet, skip 2 stitches, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then you want to do the same number of repeats for this strap as you did for the other one so that they match. So go ahead and do that for the second strap. So there I have finished working the second one, and I fastened off, leaving a nice long tail end. And there we have finished the back, and now we can move on to the front, or the front panel. And the front panel is split into 2 halves. So we're going to begin the first half of the front. And to begin this half, you want to start off by making a slip knot and then chaining 32. So for this size, you want to chain 32. And then you want to do the same thing as you did to start the back, or the back panel. So we are going to do rounds 1, 2 and 3 exactly the same as we did for the back, and then we are going to do that one repeat of rounds 2 and 3. So you want to do rounds 1, 2 and 3, and then the repeat of round 2 and 3 exactly the same as the back. And you can go back to the beginning of this tutorial and re-watch those rounds, or if you have the written pattern, they're all written down nice and clearly on there. So you can see I have already done that. So to begin the first half of the front, make a slip knot, chain 32, and then work rounds 1, 2 and 3, the same as the back, and then repeat rounds 2 and 3. And then you do not want to fasten off when you get to the end of round 3. So when you get to the end of that last repeat of round 3, do not fasten off. And now we can move on to round 4. So to begin round 4, you want to chain 1 and turn, and this does not count as a stitch. And we are going to work double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all into this first stitch. And then we're going to skip 2 stitches and work a single crochet into the next stitch. Then skip 2 stitches and work a shell into the next one. And for our shells, we're doing the same thing as usual. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all into the same stitch. Now skip 2 stitches and work a single crochet into the next. And you want to keep repeating this all the way along until you have 9 stitches left at the end. So we're going to keep repeating, skip 2 stitches, work a shell into the next one, skip 2 stitches and work a single crochet into the next until you have 9 stitches left at the end. So you want to stop when you get to this point here and you have 9 stitches left empty at the end. So there I have finished working that all the way along for round 4. So you can see I finished off with a single crochet and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches at the end here left empty that I have not worked into. And now we can move on to round 5. So to begin this round, chain 1 and turn, and we're going to start off by doing double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the first stitch, and then we're going to skip 2 stitches, work a single crochet into the next, skip 2 stitches and work a shell into the next one. And then we're going to skip 2 more stitches, 1 and 2, and work a single crochet into the next. And we're going to repeat this all the way along to the end. So it's exactly the same as we did last round, but this time we're going all the way to the end. So you should finish off by working a single crochet into the last stitch at the end. So keep repeating, skip 2 stitches, shell, skip 2 stitches, single crochet for round 5. So there I have finished repeating that all the way to the end for round 5. And now for the rest of this half of the front, we are just going to repeat that last round that we just did, round 5, until you reach where you want the neckline to be. And for this size, I would recommend repeating that round 6 times. And now if you have a look at our back panel, what I would recommend doing is working 2 rounds less than you worked for this section here, and that way the back will be a little bit higher than the front, and I think it just fits a little bit better that way. So I would work 2 rounds less than you did from here to here for the back panel. So for this size I would recommend repeating round 5 6 times. So it's completely up to you how many repeats you do, but you do need to do an even number of repeats. So you could do 4 repeats, 6 repeats like I said, 8 repeats, 10 repeats, it's completely up to you. And if you have the written pattern, I have written down on there how many repeats I would recommend doing for each size. So it does need to be an even number. So go ahead and repeat round 5 as many times as you like, but I'm going to repeat that round 6 times. So there I have finished working those repeats. So when I line this piece up with the back panel, you can see when you line these pieces up along the bottom here, you can see that this is 2 rows less than the back, and I just think that looks a little bit nicer. And now we can move on to the strap. So once you have finished working your last repeat of round 5, for this half, you want to fasten off and make sure you leave a nice long tail, as you can use that to help sew up your dress at the end. And we are going to turn our work over, and for this half the strap is exactly the same as the second strap for the back panel. So we're going to count in 7 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if you're making a larger size, then follow the instructions on the written pattern, because you will have to count in a different number. And we're going to attach our yarn into this 7th stitch. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for this strap here as we did for the second strap of the back. And you can go back in the tutorial and re-watch that strap if you need to, but it's pretty easy. We're just following the same pattern as we have done throughout our entire dress so far. So work along for round 1 like that. So we did single crochet, shell, single crochet, and now for round 2 we're going to do double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, single crochet in the middle here, and then double crochet, chain 1, double crochet to finish. So there we have finished round 2, and now just in the same way as we did for the back, you want to repeat rounds 1 and 2 until you have the length strap that you like. And if, like me, you made this section of the front 2 rounds less than the back, then you need to go ahead and balance that out by adding 2 extra rounds to the strap. So I repeated those 2 rounds once for the straps for the back, and so I'm going to repeat those rounds twice for the straps for the front, and that way it will make sure that your front and back panels are the same length. It's just that the neckline will be a little bit higher on the back. So go ahead and work with those repeats of round 1 and 2 until you have the length strap that you want. So if you did the same amount of rounds for this section here for the front as the back, then you will need to do the same number of rounds for the strap. But if, like I recommended, you did 2 rounds less for the front than the back, then you will need to add 2 extra rounds to the strap to balance it out. So go ahead and complete that strap. So there I have finished working those rounds, and I fastened off once I got to the end of that last round, and there we have finished the first half of the front, or the first front panel. So this is what it looks like. So you can see what I mean as you line up the bottom here. You can see that the back is a little bit longer than the front, so we needed to even that out with the strap and make the strap a little bit longer so that they are the same length overall. So there we have finished the first half of the front, and now we can move on to the second half. And you want to start off by doing the exact same thing as the first half. Make a slip knot, chain 32, work rounds 1, 2 and 3 exactly the same as the back, and you can go back to the very start of the tutorial and rewatch those rounds, or all of the instructions are on the written pattern. And then repeat rounds 2 and 3 once for this size, and once you have done that, this is what you should have. So this is what you should have at the end of that last repeat of round 3. And now what we're going to do for this half is we are going to fasten off. So fasten off at the end of our last repeat of round 3. And make sure you leave a nice long end here, as you can use this to help sew your dress up. And now we're going to turn our work over and count in 10 stitches. So we've done this before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And go into this stitch and attach your yarn into this stitch here. And that should leave 9 stitches empty on this side, which will create the underarm section. And now for round 4, we're going to start off by doing a single crochet, down into that stitch that we attached our yarn into. Then we're going to skip 2 stitches and work a shell into the next stitch, and you should find you're working your shell into the single crochet. And now skip 2 stitches and work a single crochet into the next. Like that, so we've done a single crochet, and you want to keep repeating. Skip 2 stitches, shell, skip 2 stitches, single crochet all the way along until you have just 3 stitches left at the end. So keep repeating, skip 2, shell, skip 2, single crochet until you have 3 stitches left at the end. So like that. So there I have finished working that, finishing with a single crochet, and I have 1, 2, 3 stitches left, and we're going to finish off by skipping the next 2 stitches, so 1 and 2, and then work double crochet, chain 1, double crochet all into this last stitch at the end. So there we have finished round 4 of this second half of the front, and now we can move on to round 5. So to begin this round, chain 1 and turn, and this chain 1 does not count as a stitch. And now work a single crochet down into the first stitch, skip 2 stitches and work a shell into the next one. Skip 2 stitches and work a single crochet into the next stitch, and you want to keep repeating, skip 2, shell, skip 2, single crochet all the way along until 3 stitches from the end. So just keep repeating, skip 2 stitches, work a shell into the next stitch, skip 2 more stitches and work a single crochet into the next until you just have 3 stitches left at the end. Okay, so like that, so I have worked that all the way along, and we're going to finish off by skipping the next 2 stitches and work double crochet, chain 1, double crochet all into this last stitch at the end. And there we have finished round 5. And now for the rest of this half of the front, you just want to keep repeating that round. So keep repeating round 5. And you can do as many repeats as you like, but you need to do the same amount of repeats as you did for the first half. So as with the first half, I recommended doing 6 repeats of round 5 for that half. So I would recommend doing 6 repeats for this half. So you need to make sure you do the exact same number. And then once you have done that, this is what you should have. So I have repeated round 5 6 times for mine. And now we can move on and add the strap. And the strap for this half of the front is the same as the first strap that we did for the back. So you do not want to fasten off when you get to the end of the last repeat. Leave this yarn attached to the ball. And now for round 1 of the strap, chain 1 and turn. And we're doing the same thing as we have done before. Single crochet, skip 2, shell, skip 2, single crochet for round 1. For round 2, chain 1 and turn, work double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then keep repeating those 2 rounds until you have the same number of rounds as the first half of the front. So you need to make sure that the straps are the same length for both halves of the front. So go ahead and do that. So there I have finished the second half of the front. So once you have done that, this is what you should have, and we have finished the top part of our dress. So we have the back panel, the first front panel, and then the second front panel. And now before we add the skirt or the bottom of the dress, we need to sew up the top. And we are going to sew this together in 4 places. We're going to sew it together along this section here, so underneath the arms, along this straight section here, then along the top sleeve, along the top of the other sleeve or the other strap here, and then along the side here. So we're going to sew it together in 4 places. So you will need a yarn needle, and then I'm going to try and use all of the ends here that I have, where I have left a long end where I have fastened off or made a slip knot, to sew it together so that I reduce the amount of ends I need to weave in at the end. But if you haven't left long enough ends, or if you have a spot where you don't actually have any ends, then just take a scrap piece of yarn and you can use that to sew that section together. So what we're going to do is place our back section here with the first half of the front panel, and you want to face them with the wrong sides facing, so you can tell which is the right side, as these top shells here, the right side of this last round should be facing outwards. So I have that on the front and on the back. I have the wrong sides together, so I have the front of the dress facing me, and I'm going to take this end here and thread it through my yarn needle, and we're going to sew this together using the whip stitch. So I'm going to come through the very bottom here, line it up perfectly, and you can use some pins or some stitch markers to keep it in place if you like, and we're going to go from here up to here using the whip stitch. So I have the 2 sides lined up perfectly, and I'm going to come in through the next stitch and through to the other side and go through, and then with the whip stitch you always come back around to the same side and go in through the next stitch and through to the same stitch on the opposite side and go through, and I kind of like to pull that tight to make sure that there are no big loops showing, and then go in through the next stitch and the same one on the opposite side and go through, and do this all the way up to where you need to stop. So there I have sewn that together, so I have sewn that section together, and now I'm going to go ahead and do the other 3 parts. So along the top of each strap and then down the other side, using the exact same method. So there I have finished sewing up the top of my dress, so I sewed it along here, here, here and here. So this is what it should look like. And then before we add the skirt, the final thing I want to do is add a little stitch here at the bottom. So I'm just going to join these 2 front half pieces here just by making 1 little stitch at the bottom here between the 2 sections, and this will make it a lot easier when we add the skirt if it's joined along this section here too. So what you want to do is take the 2 sections, and you should have an end here from where you made your slip knot, and if your end isn't very long, or if you have already sewn it in already, just grab another scrap piece of yarn to make this little stitch, and you want to go in here to the opposite side, so to the stitch here on the very bottom, and you want to go through to join them, and then I'm going to come back around and just do this once or twice just to join these 2 front sections like this. So like that. So there I have joined that bottom section just by doing a little stitch, and then when we do our skirt and we work over this, it will be a lot easier. So there we have completely finished the top section, and now we can move on to the skirt. So to begin the skirt, what you want to do is make sure that the wrong side of the stitches in round 1 here are facing you. So you can see I have the right side of these stitches from round 1 facing me, so I need to turn mine inside out so that I have the wrong side of these stitches facing me. And now you need to have the back of the dress facing you, So have the back of the dress facing you, and we are going to attach our yarn into any stitch along the centre back. So I'm going to go here in the middle of the back, any stitch you like, and attach your yarn into this stitch. And in this round, in round 1 of the skirt, we are working into our foundation chains from the front and back panels. So attach your yarn into any stitch like that, and we're going to do 1 single crochet into that stitch that you just attached your yarn into, and then we're going to skip 1 stitch, so skip the next one, and then we're going to do a shell into the next. So yarn over, skip 1, go into the next stitch and do a shell. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So like that, so we've done a shell into that one, and now we're going to skip the next stitch and do 1 single crochet into the next one. And now we're going to skip the next stitch, so this is the next chain from our foundation chain, and we're going to do a shell into the next one. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And now we're going to skip the next stitch, so skip 1. And we're going to keep repeating this all the way around for round 1 of the skirt. You want to keep repeating single crochet, skip 1, shell, skip 1, then a single crochet into the next stitch or the next chain, skip the next chain, work a shell into the next chain, skip the next chain. So we're doing single crochet, skip 1 chain, shell, skip 1 chain, all the way around until you meet where you started. So we're going to do this all the way around this big loop here. So we're going to come all the way around here. When we get to the front, we're going to come across this section around until we reach where we started. And when you get to your joins, so when you get to here and along the front, it can be a little bit tricky to work out where your chains or your stitches are, but really don't worry, this does not have to be exact at all. If you end up skipping 2 chains instead of 1, or if you don't skip any chains, or if you can't quite work out where your chains are, especially along here, just keep going with it, keep repeating that as long as it's worked evenly around. Single crochet, skip 1 chain, shell, skip 1 chain, and you work that all the way around, it'll be just fine. So just continue to work that all the way around for round 1 of the skirt. So there we have finished working that all the way around for round 1 of the skirt. And when you get to the last repeat, you should find that you work single crochet, skip the next stitch or skip the next chain, shell, and then you do not have a stitch or a chain left to skip after that shell. So that is what you will most likely have when you come to that last repeat. But as I said previously, you really don't have to be too precise or too exact in this round. So if you get to the end here and you do have an extra chain to skip, or you have 2 extra chains, that's really okay, as long as you finish off by working a shell at the end of the round. So as long as you have worked your pattern evenly all the way around and you have finished off by working a shell at the end here, it will work just fine. It doesn't matter if you have no chains or 1 chain or 2 chains left to skip here at the end, as long as you finish off by working a shell. And then to finish off round 1, we're going to work a slip stitch into the first single crochet of the round. So you want to go into this stitch here, so this is the first single crochet, and work a slip stitch. And now we can move on to round 2. So to begin this round, chain 1 and turn, and this does not count as a stitch. And we are actually going to start off by working a slip stitch into each of the first 2 stitches. So you want to go into this stitch here, so this is the last double crochet from last round, and work a slip stitch, And then I'm just going to go into this chain 1 space here and work another slip stitch. So we are doing 2 slip stitches to begin round 2, and that is just going to take us to the middle of this shell here from last round, which is where we need to be to begin round 2. And now we're going to chain 1, and this does not count as a stitch, and do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and you should find that you're working that single crochet into the middle double crochet of this shell. And now you want to skip the next 2 stitches and work a shell into the next stitch, and you should find that you're working the shell into a single crochet from last round. And now skip 2 more stitches, 1 and 2, and work a single crochet into the next, and then skip 2 more stitches, work a shell into the next, and then skip 2 more stitches. And you want to keep repeating single crochet, skip 2 stitches, shell, skip 2 stitches, all the way around. And you should find that whenever you work a single crochet, that you're working it into the middle of a shell, and that whenever you work a shell, that you're working it into a single crochet. So I'm just coming to the end of round 2. So I have worked a single crochet here, and then I have skipped 2 stitches. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my final shell. So we're going to work a shell into this last single crochet at the end. So you need to make sure you're finishing off round 2 by working a shell. So we started the round with a single crochet here. Well, we started with 2 slip stitches and then a single crochet. So we need to finish off by working a shell. And now we're going to finish off the round by working a slip stitch into the first single crochet of the round. So here is the first single crochet, and it can be a little bit tricky to find this. So it may be that you want to place a stitch marker into the first single crochet of the round at the beginning of each round from here on out to make it easier to find that single crochet when you get to the end. But here we have that first single crochet. So we finished off with a shell, and here we have the first single crochet, and we're going to work a slip stitch into that stitch. So there we have finished round 2, and now for the rest of our dress we are just going to keep repeating that round. So we are going to keep repeating round 2 of the skirt, so that round that we just did, again and again and again until you have the length that you like. And now this crochet project can be made to a top length or a tunic or a dress. It's completely up to you, and the length is just determined by how many repeats of round 2 that you work. So you can go back in the tutorial and re-watch that round, or if you have the written pattern, it's all written down nice and clearly on there. So to start each round, you chain 1 and turn, and then you begin by working 2 slip stitches. So work a slip stitch into this first stitch, and then work a slip stitch into the chain 1 space. Then you chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, work a single crochet into the next stitch, and this should be in the center of the shell. And like I said, you may want to place a stitch marker into that single crochet so that it's easy to find at the end. And then skip 2 stitches, work a shell into the next. And then keep repeating all the way around, finishing off with a shell into the last single crochet here, and then a slip stitch into the first single crochet of the round. And then just keep repeating that until you have the length that you want. So you can see all of these rounds here are just repeats, and this one here is kind of tunic length, but you can do yours to whatever length you like. And then when you get to the end of that last repeat, you want to fasten off, and I would not add a border to the bottom as we have this really pretty shell effect without the border. And then you want to go ahead and attach your buttons to the left hand side. So I securely attached 4 buttons to the left hand side, and then I added a button band down the right hand side here. So to do that, I just attached my yarn into the top right hand side, and then I just worked single crochets evenly down the side. But whenever I was opposite a button, I chained 2 and skipped the next stitch to create a button loop. And if you're using larger buttons, then you may want to chain 3, or if you're using smaller buttons, then just chain 1. And then when I got to the end, I fastened off and then weaved all of my ends nice and securely into the inside of my dress. And there we have finished. And then the very last thing that you may want to do is block your dress. So to block mine, I just pinned it into place and then sprayed it lightly with water and left it to dry. But please do make sure that the yarn that you used, that it's okay to block it in that way. And there we have finished. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it easy to follow. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos. And in the description box below this video, I will leave a link to where you can find the written pattern for this dress. So the written pattern includes the instructions for all of the different sizes. And in the description box, I will also leave a link to my Instagram account. So I always like to post updates and pictures on there, and I would love to see photos of your crochet work on there as well. And thank you again for watching. Bye.